Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my parents' basement, your parents' basement, our parents' basement, and today we're talking about Against the Wall.
Don't know.
In about an hour, I'm starting work at the factory.
It's quite a place. Factory, you know.
Attica Correctional Facility, nicknamed the Factory, was one of America's toughest prisons.
Against the Wall came out in 1994 and stars Kyle MacLachlan and Samuel L. Jackson on a script written by Ron Hutchinson and directed by John Frankenheimer. Against the Wall was an HBO production. HBO made this exclusively for the channel and on DVD as well. It got some Golden Globe nominations and included an Emmy win for John Frankenheimer. The film Against the Wall is a historical fiction on the Attica prison riots in 1971. And in some ways, this movie is a good double feature to go along with Dog Day Afternoon.
He wants to kill me so bad he can taste it.
I can always gonna kill anybody.
Attica! Attica!
What are you
Attica! 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 Attica!
Kyle MacLachlan plays a rookie prison guard who really only takes the job because he needs a job to provide for his family, and his father was a former prison guard with his uncle currently working as a prison guard. And Kyle MacLachlan's character is thrust into this very volatile situation at Attica where the prisoners want better treatment and the prison guards want to keep doing the things the way they've always been done. As we all know, the film is based on a true story. There is some room for leniency. There is some creative liberties taken, but for the most part, this film is fairly historically accurate. Kyle MacLachlan plays a real guy named Michael Smith, who was actually tracked down by the producers of the film by a private investigator to kind of help Kyle MacLachlan get into character. He was actually only supposed to stay a couple days, but actually stayed through the whole shoot. And some prisoners that were actually present for the riots stayed on as both extras and also to help capture the reality of the situation. So John Frankenheimer has done some other films such as Ronin, The Manchurian Candidate, French Connection 2, and a film that I'm probably one of the few people that ever watched with Gregory Peck, I Walk the Line, that has a bunch of Johnny Cash music just randomly imposed into the film. But John Frankenheimer, really great director. If you've never seen Ronin, it's one of the best action films of all time and really helped drive forward the realistic action that we see in Bourne. Great car chase in that film as well. But this was a film specifically for HBO, and his hands on it just really highlight and capture a lot of great visual storytelling. This is not your average Netflix film. No. Back in the 90s, they knew how to make movies, even if they were made for TV. And this film has spectacular visuals. There's a great sense of scope and scale representing the constrictions of prison and that closing in space. And as the police outside begin to form and prepare for whatever next move they're going to make, there is really a tightening feeling. And there's really great stuff in this film. I love the way scenes were captured, the way rain falls across the character's face through shadows, and just the lighting. It's just a masterpiece. You know, I often think to myself, they don't make movies like this anymore. They definitely don't make streaming or made-for-TV movies like this anymore. There is fantastic direction and visuals in this, both that create a great sense that represent the film, but also that are just beautiful to look at. And as I mentioned earlier very briefly, Samuel L. Jackson is a character in this film. He plays Jamal X, who's kind of an assimilation of multiple different people that were present in this prison riot. Obviously, this is one of the points of dramatic foregoing of the reality because, like I said, he's multiple people in one character. But Samuel Jackson, this is one of the finest actors of all time. This is 1994, so he had just done like Jurassic Park. He's about to do Pulp Fiction. He's about to become a major star. And he gives a great performance in this film. In a very short amount of time, he's able to give his character a lot of depth and create a lot of sympathy for him. Kyle MacLachlan is also, as I said, the lead of the film. He is one of my favorite actors, a very underrated actor. Most people know him from Twin Peaks as Dale Cooper. Others may recognize him from Blue Velvet or Dune by David Lynch. He's a very frequent David Lynch collaborator. But I've always liked Kyle MacLachlan. I think he's a super underrated actor. I think he is fantastic in many of the things that I've seen him in. I always enjoy watching his stuff. And in here, he is, of course, fantastic. I think one thing for him specifically is that he could have so easily been typecasted as a Dale Cooper-esque character. Even his character in Blue Velvet is somewhat similar. I think David Lynch and he have even admitted that in kind of like a parallel universe, that's that character's continuation. But in this, he's able to play something so unique and different than Dale Cooper or anything else I've really seen him in. He's able to capture the naivety of Michael Smith and the kind of fact that he is very much so a small fish in a very big pond. And he's kind of being bounced around by a pinball from the prisoners and his fellow prison guards, that he doesn't totally align with either one, and so he's being bounced around while he's trying to figure out where he exists in this place. And then that's when the prison riot begins. I think there's a very strong script present for this film. My only complaint is that you see a lot of the character arcs for characters beginning and you see them ending, but there's not a lot of meat in the middle. Characters come to conclusions that their arcs naturally would have progressed them to. It's the perfectly understandable conclusion for a character going through that situation, but the middle ground doesn't really cement a lot of stuff for them. For example, one major aspect I think that I don't really think is a spoiler, I think you can kind of see it coming, but Kyle MacLachlan and Samuel L. Jackson's characters both kind of have a coming together even though they're such opposites. And there are some scenes dedicated to their, I don't know if bonding is the right word, but they're kind of their makeshift friendship, if you will. But I felt like there was more necessary. I feel like it's very fast that it occurs. And while you can see its trajectory and it makes sense, I feel like it could have valued a lot more time. But that being said, the pace of this film is excellent. It really sets up everything really strong, so it doesn't instantly go into the riot. It lets you kind of get a pace, get a feel for it, and then it constantly adds dramatic stakes to it. And the dialogue is very sharp and engaging. And this film has a really stellar ensemble cast of characters. Besides MacLachlan and Jackson, there's also Frederic, Forrest, Harry Dean Stanton, Tom Bauer, Anne Heche, Danny Trejo, and Clarence Williams III. Now, no matter how big or small any of these characters' parts are, their screen presence is fantastic, their characters are well developed, and we understand their motivations, even if it's in the slightest bit of circumstance to the movie. Each character has their own goals, and the actors that portray them are able to give them distinct personalities that really separate them from the rest of the characters. Overall, in my opinion, Against the Wall is a fantastic film that definitely is far above any made-for-TV type movie that we get today. And like I said, I think about like movies made for Netflix. Against the Wall is a fantastic film. It's got a great cast. And John Frankenheimer, one of the most underrated directors of all time. He does a fantastic job with this film. Like I said, very powerful movie. I think it captures the event very well. And one thing with biopics or movies trying to capture a historical event, one thing I think that is really important is not to feel like a documentary, but to still feel like a movie with characters that we can understand. And I think this is a film that does that. I think although it is able to capture the importance and some of the reality of the true historical event depicted here, it's still able to feel like a movie with characters and with an overall story, and not to get too bogged down into things. Like I said, I wish there would have been more exploration of our main characters, but for the most part, it is a really good movie that I hope one day will get a Blu-ray release, because I think right now you can only buy it on DVD. I really hope that in some way HBO releases this on Blu-ray through some other bouquet service or whatever, because I really would like to go back and watch this many times over beyond just being on HBO Max. If you're interested, I think the full thing is on YouTube. Otherwise, you can check it out on HBO Max and probably higher quality. But it's a really great movie depicting a true event that has a lot of underrated actors and really has a strong pace, strong flow. And I think it's a good story to kind of explore because of how little is talked about today. This was a huge event that had rippling effects afterward, like I mentioned in Dark Day Afternoon, another historical film that's on a true event, but that we really don't talk about that much today. So overall, I'm going to give Against the Wall. I really do recommend this movie. Check it out if you haven't seen it, but if you have seen it, let me know in the comments below what you think. But anyway, guys, that's it for this movie review. Thank you for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe, do what you gotta do, and make sure you're here next time so I can see you in my parents' basement, your parents' basement, our parents' basement.